I'd like to introduce you to our next presenter, Shiva Nataraj-Allen. Shiva has been practicing yoga since 1978. He is active in bringing awareness and educating others about Hindu Dharma and how it connects with other traditions. He has traveled to numerous countries and Native American reservation, as well as sacred sites. His first experience with the power of mantras was at the age of 15, when he had an experience that he is still trying to fully comprehend all these years later. In his tradition, snakes are called nagas, and they are sacred beings that live all around us. Serpent Mound is a physical manifestation of the powers that they grant to those of us who acknowledge and respect them. Shiva will also be joined by Ben Vivio. Ben Vivio has been coming to Serpent Mound for the past several years. What drew him here was a desire to know himself through the experience and knowledge of others. In his personal life, he is married to Lisa, the Queen of No. It's her favorite word. Ben is a licensed counselor specializing in addiction as well as mental health issues. Today, Ben will be joining Shiva in today's practice. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Please help me in welcoming Shiva and Ben.
I'll go real quick, I'll let you go. So, namaste, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Charles, the last speaker, you brought up a couple interesting things. I actually have one of the malas. You spoke about 108, so I actually have that for you. And I also have, you're welcome. And I also have for you, this actually reminds me of the sweat lodge. It's a lotus. It has an individual sitting in the lotus, similar to a sweat lodge position. And it's made out of silver, and I know silver is considered very important in native traditions. So I wanted to present that to you. Thank you so much. So, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about Hindu Dharma. It's actually called Sanatana Dharma, which means the eternal way. When Ben's ready, I'm going to turn it over to him in a second. Can everybody hear him? Okay. But one of the things that's important is we tend to, as a society, we put labels on everything. You know, you're this and you're that. And a lot of the traditions, as the gentleman was talking about, there's so many universal connections between all these traditions. And I think what people need to do, what I tell everybody, is do the best and practice what works for you. Practice what is attracts you to it, because a lot of times people find a lot of traditions that attract them. And the most important thing is to find what works for you and to be respectful of others. I think, you know, going back to, you know, all nations, all races, all relations, we are all interrelated. I believe that firmly. Somewhere or another, we've all met in the past, and we are meeting again to reacquaint ourselves. Before I go on, I'm going to introduce Ben Vivio, who he is. I've known him for several years now. Wonderful gentleman. He's actually been in the background helping a lot of the stuff that nobody knows about. To help everything come together on the stage. So I'm going to have Ben talk for a minute, and then I'm going to have a little bit of information that I'm going to share with you all. What's most important to me is please ask questions. It's really important for me to understand where you are to help you get wherever you want to go. It's not where I want you to go. It's not where somebody else wants you to go. Where do you want to go? So at any point in the conversation, please raise your hand, interrupt, whatever you need to do. Ask questions, because I find that also helps me learn. And as we ask questions, we grow together as a community. So I'm going to have Ben come on for a minute, and then I'm going to get started again. Thank you all, everybody.
All right. Hello. This is my first time actually speaking here. It's really cool to see a lot of people that I've known for a while. I've been meeting with Shiva. I've met Shiva at the Eclipse event. And Hinduism has always intrigued me. I was raised Jewish and found that didn't really stick with me, wasn't really my thing. And I loved it. I loved the upbringing, but it didn't stick the way that I guess maybe my mom hoped. And I started learning about Ram Dass and his journey of finding his study in Hinduism. And the book that I brought is his book, Be Here Now, which is really an amazing book that I do recommend. He tells his story of finding Hinduism and his practice and meeting his guru. And the summary of it is Ram Dass, initially his name was Richard Alpert, who was also raised Jewish. It seems to be a thing that a lot of white Jews end up going to Hinduism, but I don't know. I don't know what that's about. But he and a man named Timothy Leary were studying LSD and were finding out, what is this? What happens when you take this medicine? And each of them had their own experiences that as they were learning about it, and found that Ram Dass, at the time Richard Alpert, said he wanted to go to India to meet a guru and to find out, where does he go? Where do you go when you take that medicine? And he went to India, and this is my understanding of it. He went to India and he met a man named Maharaji, and Maharaji was the local guru in the area. And he met with him and he said something along the lines of, I have this medicine. I would like you to take it and tell me what happens when you take it. And I think they say like Maharaji took like 7 doses of this medicine, and he said nothing happens. And what he found is that he's in that state at all times. And through his meditation, through his practice. And so until then, Ram Dass decided, going from Richard Alpert to Ram Dass, devoted his life to Maharaji and the practice. It's important to note, Shiva is not my guru. We laugh a lot. Shiva is not a guru. He calls it the G word. He's not a G word. He's just been an awesome teacher. And I feel like I'm finding my way. Since coming here, I felt like I've learned so much about native cultures and all different practices, and just opening my eyes to other worlds and meeting so many awesome people that inspired me just to get on a path. I think like it reminds me of when you're like traveling here and your GPS isn't working, and finally it kicks in and you realize you're on a door. My GPS just started working. So I may or may not be on the right path or a path, but I at least see something showing up. So I'm going to hand it over to Shiva. And so thank you. It's really cool to talk here.
Thank you so much, Ben. I actually had something to give to you. In our Dharma, there's a lot of guardian deities, you can call them, kinds of names people have formed, who's a remover of obstacles. And me and Ben have had several conversations. Ben actually has Ganesh at his house. And as I was going through things to bring to here, this cropped up and I thought, that's for Ben. I was going to frame it, but I had to get on the airplane, and with the glass and everything, they get crazy. So this is actually for you, Ben.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
So-
Thank you.
So here in Hinduism, I'll start a little bit about what the Charles had spoken about, the 108. 108, it's 108 here. A lot of times you can say any type of mantra. A mantra is a sacred chant, a sacred word. And 108 seems very daunting to people. So if you'll notice on here, there's a little string, 27. So if you can't do 108, or if you don't want to do or you feel uncomfortable, do 27. 27 times 4 equals what, Ben?
108.
So 108, 27, 54, 108. You can do that. So this is what I actually do. I actually have it with me all the time. I wear it. Sometimes it's in my pocket, sometimes on me. But this is something, I have a lot of the malas back there. They're called malas. And basically I have a lot of information on that table back there that anybody is welcome to take. There's no, I don't ask anything of it. I'm going to talk a little bit though about another, one of the manifestations. This is Sri Ram. People may not be familiar with him. Sri Ram actually has a bow and arrow. The connection to some of the native tribes, not all of them, some of the native tribes. And he's a warrior that defends Dharma. Dharma is the truth. Dharma is the way. Very much like, we're talking about Sitting Bulls, a lot of the Lakota, I mean, all the different tribal people do that. And it's basically representing that we always have to, it does not necessarily have to be physical. It has to be a mental fight to defend yourself, to understand yourself. Because if we understand ourselves, we go into the society much more familiar and much better armed in a non-physical sense to be able to answer people's questions. So that's one of the things that I do. When we talk about how to worship, so there are issues, there are devas like this. There is a female deva, which you call Devis. There is Swami Narayan, which is another form of Vishnu. Vishnu is the creator deva. There's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the three devas that create, preserve, and destroy everything. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is a preserver, Shiva is the destroyer. Now, in society, we think of destroyer as bad. Destroyer means getting rid of the old to make room for the new. It's not a negative connotation. Maybe the transformer would be a better word, but everybody's familiar with the destroyer, so I just use that. What I also have here are Rockies. Now, later today, we're going to be doing a Hawan ceremony. We actually did one last year. Hawan is a sacred fire ceremony. And these Rockies, you got one, Ben? I've got one. I tied one on Ben last year. I have one somewhere in here too. And you basically wear them until they come off. In our tradition, once you have something, when it comes off, it has served its purpose. There isn't, you decide, okay, it's no longer red, it's off color, I'm going to get rid of it. You don't do that. When it served its purpose, just like everything in life, when something serves their purpose, they move on. So, should anybody want one of these, I'd be happy to tie them on. You tie them on with a protection mantra. You wear them as long as you want to. Now, a couple of the mantras that we're going to be doing is the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra, would you mind reciting it?
Yeah.
I'll have Ben recite it, and then,
I actually only know it when I chant it, so I'm gonna have to chant it.
yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
So it's Om Bhuvasva, Om Tat Savatur Vareyam, Vargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat.
And that translates to, thank you, Ben. I'm putting him on the spot, so he'll talk to me afterwards. So basically, a summary, a lot of the words, like a lot of the native words, they have many, many meanings. Approximate translation is we meditate on the most adored supreme. You can call it the Great Spirit. You can call it the whatever you want to. The creator, whose divine light illuminates all the realms, physical, mental, and spiritual. May this divine light illumine our intellect. So basically, it's a prayer for understanding. It's a prayer for knowledge, and it's a prayer for enlightenment. We can use it for, or just basically giving you more information so that you can go on whatever path you want to. There is a second prayer that we're going to do at the end of the mantra. And I actually gave it to Terry, but I'm not sure she got to read it. I don't see her here. It's Twameva Mata Chapita Twameva. Twameva Bandhu Chasika Twameva. Twameva Vidya Javinam Twameva. Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Now, obviously, what translation? You alone are my mother and father. You alone are my relative and my friend. You alone are my knowledge and my wealth. You alone are my everything, or Deva of Devas, basically supreme of the supremes. And this conveys a deep sense of devotion, recognizes that we all have the divine presence in us. That's what namaste means. I basically bow to the divine presence in you. Basically acknowledge, when you chant this prayer, you acknowledge that. And part of, again, it comes down, if you acknowledge something, you become aware of it. We become aware of how we are part of the whole creation. I do have copies of this that I'm going to give to anybody that wants them. Again, they're in the back. Another thing that we spoke about briefly is, don't laugh, Ben, Guru. Guru is a teacher. There are, in Hindu Dharma, it's really interesting because a lot of people, somebody tell me what they know about a guru. Who's your first guru? Anybody know?
I read the book, autobiography of Yogi, and that's when I was introduced to guru, so they sound like they can help you and lead you and guide you, teach you.
Absolutely. You want to add something to it? Absolutely. Two wonderful questions. Now, to add to that, this is actually the Sanskrit for guru. Now, this is on peepal leaf, which is the sacred tree the Lord Buddha got enlightened under. It's written in Sanskrit, and guru, to add what the two ladies are entirely on with it, the first guru we have in life, believe it or not, is your mother. Before you are born, that information from your mother is being conveyed to you, the positivity, the negativity. They always caution people when you're pregnant, both father and mother, but particularly the mother, to be aware of how you affect your child. So a lot of times they'll do prayers, Lakota prayers. They will do Native American chants. They will do the different traditions chants. They'll do the mantras that we're talking about. And that's oftentimes why you actually have people that are born and they have a little bit more knowledge than they have. We believe in what's called reincarnation, that you basically keep coming back until you have acquired everything you need to acquire. And then you go on to a realm of, in a sense, being able to assist people. We assist people in many ways. Some people have GPS. Some people have mental GPS. It's important. Can you turn this off? Beginning of the day. Okay. I turn this off then. I don't know if it's gonna like. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll speak up. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, so I was talking about guru, and as I was saying, guru is a teacher. Your mother is viewed as your first guru. Your father is your second guru. And then you have what people call something like Paramahansa Yogananda. There's a lot, Ram Das, there's a lot of gurus. This is actually the Sanskrit writing for guru on a peepal leaf. Peepal leaf is from the tree that Buddha got enlightened under. So I have a couple of those. And I also have, this is another symbol of love. Now, there in Hinduism, in Sanskrit, this is a very ancient. Love in the form of bonding, love in the form of like a parental figure or a brother to a brother, sister to a brother. And that's something that I also do. I basically get inspired to do these things. And I do as, you know, as the spirit takes me, I guess you would say. What I find the most important is that when we start getting comfortable, we continue on that path. It's really important to continue on their path. There's a book, it's called, you know, Beyond Birth and Death, which really is the focus of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, there are a lot of, Bhagavad Gita means the song of the Devas. A lot of times, and again, this is so tied into native spirituality, it really kind of surprises me. A lot of the sacred things are not spoken, they are chanted, like how Ben chanted the Gayatri mantra, it's chanted. So this was originally chanted. And if you're actually reading it, if you ever hear it, it's chanted. Now, basically what this book talks about is a cycle of life. Talks about, you know, when we are in life, we have a lot of questions and we have a lot of doubts. You go through a difficulty in life, somebody's gotten sick, as previously somebody mentioned, somebody has passed on. And the Bhagavad Gita basically teaches that all of this is part of the divine plan, in a sense, in that when you understand the whole picture, you really don't stress out. And the whole point about this is it's summarized. It's kind of funny. People will write volumes on this. I tell everybody, if you're going to read any religious book, to be honest, any sacred book, read one without a lot of commentary. This is from the Gita Press. And again, I'm not a publisher or anything like that. I found it's the easiest one to read because what happens is when you start reading what somebody comments on, you never get done reading it. There's an old book called War and Peace. If they comment on it, it would be like 5 million pages or something. And you never, you know, I never got to read War and Peace myself because it was overwhelming. But this is just a brief commentary about it. And what's fascinating about the Gita is it takes place on the battlefield. Now, everybody thinks of war. In life, we face a battlefield. Battlefield, I had number of challenges, which some of you may or not be aware that I had to come here today. And when you face those challenges, oftentimes we get upset. We get mad. You get in an argument with somebody, you say something you will later regret. The important thing is to stay calm. That's really hard to do, really hard to do. But with practice, it becomes easier. Now, when somebody is stressed out here, would somebody care to share what they do when they get stressed out? Anybody in there? Go ahead. Breathe, okay? Somebody meditate. So, those are two excellent examples. Sometimes people get stressed out and they start screaming and yelling and doing all kinds of things that we don't want to do. Because what happens is when you make a decision and you're not thinking clearly, you will probably end up regretting that decision. You get upset, you say something to somebody, you do something. A lot of people have had issues with addictions. Addiction, it's a very simple solution to a problem that you only exacerbate by doing it. So when you are doing that, you're really altering your mental state, but you're not altering anything about your physical state. So you go on a binge and then you come back to the same thing you had. The only problem is you now have less money, you have strained relationships, you have people that are really upset because what did you say last night that you don't remember and they remembered what you said. So that's what's important. And it goes back to yoga, which is part of meditation. There's a book, it's called Yoga's Forgotten Foundation. And a lot of what yoga teaches, people think about the positions. That's wonderful to have those positions. Those positions, a lot of times people fail to realize when you do those positions, it's meant to get you in a state of relaxation that you can then meditate. Because if you sit down and meditate, if you sit down in a sweat lodge and your back's hurting, your legs are hurting, you're not going to be able to focus on what you need to focus. So when you do that, stretching, the yoga, things like that, you end up being more focused. There's also the mental disciplines of speaking the truth. The gentleman before said that he had a feather that as long as you have it, you always have to speak the truth. You have to have a figurative feather in your hand all the time. Because what happens is as we speak, whatever we speak and whatever we believe goes out to the universe. You may think you don't affect anybody, you get in line and you get upset about something that you forgot. I actually do counseling with somebody and I told them, I said, they had a huge issue of being impatient, which all of us do. I'm too old for it, but all these people do. I don't know anybody who does the TikTok thing. It's like 15 seconds or something like that. And I think so. It's a short period of time. And I spoke to this person. I said, okay, here's your assignment. Not as a guru, so don't get that. Here's your assignment. Here's what I want you to do. Get your cart. You're going to do a week's worth of grocery shopping. The only thing I don't want you to do is to don't have anything perishable from the freezer or anything like that. Get your cart as full as you can get it. Of the things you need, get in line. Pick the longest line. When you get to the front of the longest line, make sure you forgot something and get online. Then go back and get that butter, whatever you want to get, go back in the line. When you get to the front of the line, get out of the line and go back and get something else. Tell me how many times you have to do that before you start cursing me. And when you do that, do it one more time and then check out. Because it's a very practical way of teaching yourself patience. A lot of times we want to read books. It's wonderful to read books, but it's most important to practice. When you practice, you want to have a sacred area that you practice on. You want to have like a shrine. We have, I'm not sure, can you show the sacred thing here, like the Native American? You have a blanket and you have sacred things to bless and make the area sacred, empower that area. You can use that in any tradition. Sometimes there are rocks. Sometimes there are different things that symbolize many different things. There is There can be sweetgrass, there can be a lot of different herbs. So get your own shrine in that sense. Find the things that are important to you. Your guru could be your mother or your father. Somebody that's important to you, put them on there. Whatever tradition you have, put that on there. As the example with Ben, he has Ganesh, so you put Ganesh on there. When you do that, you empower that area to be a sacred area. The sacred area is an area you do not go when you're upset. It's area you can go when you're upset to calm down, but you do not start any rituals when you are angry. You sit there for a minute, show gratitude. There are many ways of doing it in the native traditions. They have sage, they have sweetgrass, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm still learning. We have incense, very similar tradition. And what you do is you purify the area. They had done, I don't think it was videotaped, but they did a purification area of this area. And I could feel the difference when they do that. So once you purify that area, you're able to then focus on what you need to. Oftentimes when we do that, we start asking for things. I said, no, you don't ask for anything. People are, give me the winning lotto numbers, give me this, give me that. No, what you want to do, and again, you can do what you want to. These are just my suggestions. What you want to do is you want to ask for understanding. You want to ask for knowledge. Knowledge in life, I've read a lot of things, but I find out that there's a lot more that I've never read. The more that I've read, the more I find out I don't know. We can add something, Ben?
I just wanted to add one more thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me turn it over to Ben.
I just the practice that I've been practicing as far as yoga. One more is called karma yoga, and you made me see me running around here carrying things, adjusting microphones, doing stuff. And people have said, "No, you don't stop. You won't stop." And karma yoga is doing the work for the sake of the work, for the sake of serving God. So I'm happy to do this work. What's that? Yes. Yes, doing the work for the sake of the work, doing the work for the sake of serving God. And so people might see me getting orders from these ladies, one more specific than the other. And I was talking about Terry. And that's my karma yoga. That's the work that I do. It's to serve, it's to for love. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Shiva.
Absolutely. And that's what's important. The other thing is you have to be aware of your ego. A lot of times we tend to think we know everything. I'll give you a good example. I'm not sure anybody is that age here. When I was like 13, 14, I thought my parents literally knew nothing. You're like, well, my parents know, they don't know. Like my father told me something about when I got my first car, that he could hear the transmission slipping. I'm like, how does he know that? He doesn't know. Of course, he was 100% right. I ignored him as a typical teenager did. I ended up going down the road and the transmission went out of my car. If anybody's had the transmission go out of your car, you're like, oh my God, what do I do? You have no idea what to do. And what happens is at that age, you think your parents are not knowledgeable. And when you get to be about 30, it's like you realize, all that stuff out, from that age to that age, you think they learned a lot and they didn't learn anything more. You just realized that you're going to understand that knowledge and accept that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. We tend to want to make things our own and say that I came up with this great idea. I don't really believe we come up with ideas. I think we get those ideas from the universe. We get those ideas and what we do with those ideas influence where we go. There are lots of yoga, and thank you for pointing that out, Ben. There's Dharma, which is yoga of basically your actions. There's karma, which is where you're doing different things. There's jnana, which is knowledge. You focus on all those things, and what you want is a balance of all those different yoga. Hatha yoga is the yoga everybody's familiar with, that breathing, the exercising. That's a wonderful thing. I did want to just add that they did forget to say about me being the second husband to Lisa. So they left that out. So Carla, please correct that for the next meeting. You'll find out in life that you will actually find a lot of people that you just met and they feel like family. It feels like, you've known these people forever, and you probably have. We've, in the Hindu tradition, we teach that when you get married to somebody, you're married to them for 7 lifetimes. You actually walk around the fire in a cyclical circle form, clockwise form, 7 times. And you take 7 steps to symbolize the 7 lifetimes that you can be with that person. Now, we don't know if this marriage is marriage number 1, marriage number 7. We don't know where that is. One of the things that the gentleman previously spoke about is, I forgot the word, were you going against the tradition? Yeah, was that?
Being contrary,
No, but the Lakota word.
contrary.
Yeah, but what was the Lakota word? Hey, okay. So it's interesting because in Hinduism, we have what's called agoris. Agoris, they do everything opposite of what the Orthodox traditions, I guess you would say, the common traditions do. And people will look at them like this gentleman spoke about, they're like, what is wrong with you? But once you realize that it's all part of the bigger scene, all this stuff really is about you. Do what you have to do. That is the most important thing that everybody needs to do. Now, somebody tell me something you know about, what is moksha? What ask me some words about Dharma that you may or may not know. Anybody know what moksha means? Somebody said? Liberation. Somebody way in the back said liberation. Yeah, and what does that mean? What would you, how would you say that meant? What's that? Yeah, freeing yourself from karma. This guy's a genius. He needs to be up here. Because what it is it's freedom from karma, freedom from all the attachments that we have. What happens a lot of times, they'll say that, you know, when you are on your deathbed and you are thinking about something, you have that desire and you have to come back and now fulfill that. So, you know, once you are in a state that you realize the bigger picture, you realize, hey, I don't have to worry about all these things. We talk about the possessions. We have all these possessions. We don't take anything with us. People don't realize that we don't take anything with us. You know, I had a 68 Camaro. I sold it after a few years because, like, what am I going to do with this? I don't have any use for it. I'm not going to race people and things like that. And you get in a position where as you get older, or maybe as you're young, you can do it too. It's better if you're younger to do it. You don't want to impress people anymore. You dress the way you are because that's the way, it's a reflection of your inner self. I always wear my traditional Indian clothing, and the looks I get is something else. I just, you know, I've gotten so used to it, so I just walk away. I don't say anything, but sometimes people come and ask me something. What is something about me that I have on that somebody would want to ask and explain to me what it is? Yes. Yeah, the tikka or the tilak, what is that? Anybody know what it is? Yeah, yeah,
Not calcified.
yeah. Anybody else? Okay, there are different, what's the difference between the tikka and then they have the line, it looks like a V sometimes. There are different traditions, similar to how you have different animal clans, I believe, you know, and please correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but there are different, in native tribes, there are different animal clans. So you belong to the bear clan or the eagle clan, different clan. So there are different religious traditions. What looks like the V is the worshippers of Vishnu. There's the 3 lines across, that's creation, preservation, and destruction, past, present, future. That's for the worshippers of Shiva. That's usually with ash. The V is usually with chandan, which is sandalwood. This line is kind of like a universal thing that you can use for anything. And to be honest, it's really easy to just put that on instead of having the. So I do. They all basically mean that you're aware of what's going on. And how I explain to people about the third eye is if you actually close one eye and you look, and then you close the other eye and you look, you will notice that each eye you're seeing slightly different. When your 2 eyes are open, like if you ever had an eye exam, you don't see as well in one eye as the other one. So when your 2 eyes are open, they merge into one eye and they combine all that knowledge so that you're able to see, you know, 3-dimensionally, you're able to see everything. So the third eye means that you're going to basically look at everything as one. If you have one eye. Now here's what's going on. You look at everybody as one, equal, you know, whether it's a person, male, female, Native American, African American, Caucasian, Latino, any of those things, you don't treat somebody differently because of the way that they look. That's not important. What you do is again, going back to, all my relations, you really have to do that. And this is a reminder to me every day that I put this on, that I need to do that. Some days I'm not the best because we're always learning, but it still is a reminder for me to do that. And I find that when we educate people about it, people become much more open. There's on the back of my head, it's a tuft of hair. It's in my tradition, it's called Cherokee, and other traditions that they call it a Sika. And it's a tuft of hair that basically is meant to cover up, well, I don't have much hair, but there's another chakra point right in the back of your head. You're supposed to keep that covered at all times. It depends on how much you get involved in these traditions. It's not a must. The beauty of a lot of these traditions is it's not that you must do A, B, C, D, E. You do what you are, where you are, and then you move on. Going back to how we practice, if you have that sacred area and you're able to focus and get to a peace like that, you will find out that the rest of your day is going to be a much better day. You might get a flat tire. You're gonna get challenges. There's always something out there that's going to challenge you. But if you can stay grounded enough, you'll find that there's going to be a lot more ease in your life, a lot less challenges. You're gonna ask something? Okay. And what's so important is that you really, when you do this, I actually did this, and it was interesting because I did this on Facebook, because when we do, you can also do different types of Hawan for the ancestors. I do this for my parents' birthday, the day that they died, their anniversary. I have a sister and brother. I've got two sisters and a brother that have also passed in the last 5 years. So I've lost a mother, a brother, a brother-in-law, and two sisters in less than 5 years. And then my puppies died. So it's like, so it's, and a lot of people say, how can you stay calm? And I said, well, inside I'm not really that calm, but I know that if I get upset, then I'm going to make myself do what I told everybody else. I'm going to get in that grocery line and get back out until I realize that I need to calm down. Because when we get upset, there's nothing wrong with getting upset, but direct that anger. There are a lot of people, how are you going to direct that anger? Because if I direct my anger at somebody, I'm angry at Ben I can't think of a reason, but let's say I am angry at Ben for a reason. He's talking to Lisa more than I've been getting a chance to talk to her. So I get mad at him about that. Then I have to look at, why am I getting mad? I'm getting very egotistical, and it has to be my way. As Americans, we all are subject to that. And if we get away from that, we tend to find out that there's a lot more peace. So going back to that shrine, so what you can also do, with the incense, with the sage, with the sacred grass, you can also, and in our tradition, we have sacred grasses too. So when you do an offering, you offer sacred grass to the ancestors. You offer sacred grass to the guardian deities, to the devas, for safe passage, for protection, for leading you in the right direction. Ganesh is a wonderful example. If everybody's familiar with Ganesh, yeah. Somebody tell me who Ganesh is, just what he looks like and who he is. Yeah, so she said again here that Ganesh is about removing obstacles. Lady over here, you had something to add? Okay, now here's what's interesting about Ganesh. Ganesh is the remover of obstacles. There's a little but though. If you're going the wrong way, Ganesh will put obstacles in your way. So I tell everybody, Ganesh is wonderful, but that's what a guru is. They will put obstacles in your way, and you can choose to keep jumping over those hurdles and tripping over them. And I forgot what's called, the hurdle where people jump over those things in the Olympics. And or you can say, you know what, I'm 61, I'm too old, I can't do that. I'm gonna have to go another way. But you can be 20 and do that too. When I was very young, just to give you an example, there was it's very difficult to describe, but there's a mantra, it's called Om. It's a sacred mantra. It's actually the sound of the universe, the sound of creation. And when I was a kid, one of my parents fell. My parents told me if you actually put your fingers in your both ears, you will actually hear a slight hum. And they said that is the sound of Om. Om is everywhere at every time. So in our tradition, we chant that. And there was an experience that happened where I was like maybe 9, or I don't remember how old. I wasn't that old. And I hated doing this stuff. It's like, I don't understand what it is. I did it because I was told to. I didn't know what it meant. And I did that one day, and I was like in a standing position for like 5 minutes. And I had no idea where I was. It was just, I don't know how you describe it. I wasn't here, but I was, as I know where I was. And after like 5 minutes, I honestly, I woke up. I don't know what you would call it. I became aware of my presence again. And my sister looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just had, and then my parents said, well, and I told them what happened. They said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It'll make sense." It puts you in a profound state of awareness. Maybe I could say that. It's very difficult to describe. But from that day onward, I noticed that a lot of things about me changed. I learned to become more patient. We grew up very poor, and I would always put food out for the animals. There was a rock at the corner of our house, and I was kind of a klutz when I was a kid. Well, I might still be, I don't know. But I would be talking to somebody and wandering this way and doing this, which a lot of people do. And my parents did not want me to go to that side of the house because they thought I was going to fall on the rock and hit my head. So my parents told me that there was a snake there. So I'm like, okay, something, and well, okay. So I went and started putting food for the snake, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "The snake's got to eat too," So I did that, and then they didn't know what to do, because that's actually what you do in a lot of the traditions. You put something out for the other beings. The Nagas in my tradition, they are beings that are in another dimension, and they can appear as they choose to, if you are aware of that tradition. There almost can be like shapeshifters, might be the closest equivalent I can come up with for a Western equivalent, but they give you knowledge. And if you understand and you rever that and you respect that, you get access to more knowledge. And that's part of that practice. As you become more aware of nature, like I'll give you a good example. I'm in Florida, and there was a huge hurricane. I forgot the name of it because we get so many, but there's a hurricane, and we left our house. There was a big, everything flooded, and it was like 3 or 4 feet of water, because I saw it on, my camera was still working. And so the house next to me on one side, an oak tree that's but like 3 times as thick, fell over. On the other side of my house, 2 houses down, another oak tree fell over and crushed them. 1 block across me, there was a shed that was lifted off the house, a yard, and went into the alleyway. And then down the street, 2 houses from me, there was a palm tree that got snapped in half. And then about another block away, there was a huge telephone light pole that was snapped in half in the middle of the street. And our house, it was interesting, a branch broke off from the tree, but it was almost like you touched the ceiling, touched the roof. It literally touched the roof. It was still attached when I got home. And I thought, oh, I just put a big hole in my roof. And I went up there and there wasn't one. I'm like, how did that happen? I'm basically surrounded by all of these tragedies. And, in our tradition, we have what's called a neem tree. It's a sacred tree. And with the neem tree, they basically have spirits, ancestors, whatever you want, that are present in them. And I had one of those in the front. I had one of those in the back. And I always did that before. And I told somebody, my house will be fine. And they're like, your house is not going to be fine. And it was. And the tree did not lose a leaf. I could never figure that out. It's kind of an interesting thing. I had it's called a Schefflera up here, but they're an umbrella tree. They're big, big trees. And the top of it, right next to the neem tree, was ripped off. I mean, it was literally like somebody went and twisted it off. And it was on the ground next to the neem tree, and the neem tree was on it, was basically completely untouched. And that was right in front. I had like a little, like you put some little rocks and things like that, that signify that it's a sanctified area. So, going back to the tradition of how you practice, find your practice. Make sure that you have something that you do. The most important thing is that you are consistent. A lot of times we do the tradition of we go to a place of worship one day a week. And somebody was saying that, and I said, well, let me ask you a question. How many days a week do you try and eat healthy? Is it one day? They're like, no. I said, how many days? And so every day. And I said, okay, so you try and eat healthy every day. I said, if you exercise, how many days do you try and do that? And they said, pretty much every day. And I said, so why would you not be grateful to the creator, grateful to the universe every day? I said, it doesn't take you an hour. It doesn't cost you a penny. People, you don't have to spend money, but you want to do something every day to show that gratitude. And we in America, we don't do that enough. I mean, I'm of Indian descent, but I was raised in America, so I'm kind of typical in a sense of that. But I try to be aware of that. And when you do that every day, people see that and they ask you questions. Because that's how I met Ben. He was asking me a few questions about things, and I was telling him, with the malas, one of my friends, new converts, I guess you'd say, I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to be in that sweat lodge for 3.5 hours. I'm going to be, whatever I'm going to be, I'm going to do it to the extreme. And so I said the 108, and he says, I'm going to do 108 10 times a day. And I said, well, what's the point of that? And he's like, well, I said, no, it's not going to show anything, but that you can count 108 times 4. That's wonderful that you can count that. I'm not sure what that adds up to, but it doesn't matter. But I told him, I said, do 27. 27 is not a magic number, but it's a manageable number. You're doing this much versus so much. Thank you. And that's what's important. If you're going to practice a tradition, make it manageable. Because if you end up doing that one day a week, one day a month, one day a year, those of you that are here, I'm glad you're all here. But if you can take something with you, don't take something that I told you, but take something everybody's telling you. Be aware of everything. Be alert to it, be open to it, because there's a lot that is out there that we can be open to, and we choose not to be open to. You see things that don't make sense? Why do you have to have an explanation? We want an answer. I have to put this in a little category. People see me, people from India see me, and I'm walking, and they're like, they start saying something to me in Hindi. I don't know anything in Hindi. And then they're like, okay, you're from India? I said, no, I'm not. Well, you're dressed like you're from India. And I said, yeah, my ancestors left India 150 years ago. And, in our tradition, we really stressed preserving our culture. I found out just recently that we're actually of a tradition, because somebody from India was asking me, there's Brahma, which is not the creator, but he's just like there, and nobody really worships him. He's just like, okay, he created everything. Let's worry about the other ones. So he's generally not worship. I think there's one temple in the whole world that he's actually worship in Thailand. There's a little shrine that you might have heard of. But when I was a kid, and I completely forgot about this, when we were, I was having a conversation with somebody, and we would always say a prayer to Brahma. And I said to somebody, I said, which tradition is that? Because my father was raised with the Shiva tradition. My mother was raised with the Vishnu tradition. And then I was raised with the Shiva tradition. I said, but that doesn't fit in with any of them. And there's, what are you talking about? And I said, we did that. And they said, you do realize that that's a very, very, very old tradition that's not practiced anymore. Oh, I didn't know that. Because like when another area of practice, what you dress doesn't necessarily make you, but what you state about how you dress. People wear t-shirts and they say all kinds of very rude things. And that puts a lot of negative karma out there. But what I was telling everybody is what you dress can represent you. As an example, in my tradition, and in some of the, I'm not sure about the Native tradition, I know the other Asian traditions, when somebody dies, you wear white. In the Western traditions, you wear black. And so when my mother died, I started wearing white. It's like literally head to toe white, you know. Even this, you can't have the writing on it. It has to be all white, including my shoes, which these are not white shoes. I had like real white shoes. And somebody from India came up to me and they're like, what are you doing? It's like, 30 days into it. And I said, I'm wearing white. Why are you wearing white? And then you shave your head and you get that little tuft. And I don't have enough hair, so it doesn't really matter if I shave my head. They said, what are you doing that? And I said, that's what we're supposed to do. Because my father actually asked me about a year before he died. He says, what are you going to do when I die? And I said, well, I shave my head. I have to do a fasting ceremony. I can't have like alcohol or cigarettes or anything like that for a period of a year. And I have to wear white. And I actually didn't know how I learned that because somewhere when we were really poor, so we didn't have access to a lot of books. We had the Gita was the only book we really had. And so when people asked me that, I said, yeah, I'm supposed to wear white for a year. And they're like, it's actually a lunar year, which is 11 months. So I actually wore that for the whole year. And what was so interesting is that I got so many questions from people. And then my mother died, and somebody says, well, you don't do that. I said, yes, I do. My mother's going to be mad at me if I don't do this. I said, you don't get your mom mad, and you don't get your wife mad, Ben. So just you don't want to do that because it's really it's that dharma, it's that duty that you have. So does anybody have any other questions? Because I'm trying to wrap up. Other questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna temple at home to share mantra and stuff. What's the difference between like Hindu and the Krishna?
Okay. The question is about the Hare Krishna temples. There really isn't much of a difference. Hare Krishna is one of the devas of Hinduism. It's in the Hindu tradition. What they've done is they've actually gone back to original Hinduism called Sanatana Dharma, which means the eternal way, which means it applies to everybody. It's like karma. Karma applies to everybody. You believe it or not, when you do the blessings with the ancestors, it's going to affect all of us. You don't have to believe it. It's still going to affect you. So a brief answer is they are Hindu, but they focus on the universalism of it versus in Hinduism. Like people can go to Hindu temples. Nobody's going to look at you funny. I tell them, if you go, take your shoes off, be respectful, ask questions if you want to, and they'll usually say you can or can't take pictures. If you go to the Caribbean Hindu, I'll tell you that most traditions, they don't want you to take pictures, including the Hare Krishna. But that Hare Krishna mantra, the Maha mantra, means a great mantra. That's another mantra that you could say. There are a dozen mantras that you can say. I tell everybody, do the 27, just do Om. Seriously, do something very easy. You could even say relax. You can say whatever you want to, but the mantras are sacred formula, like the native traditions, the chants, they're sacred formulas that have been passed down for generations, probably from the ancestors. Am I correct? Okay. I don't want to speak improperly. So those traditions, they have meaning. You don't just make, you can't, no, you're not gonna get punished if you make it up, but you will not find the effectiveness. It won't be as effective as if you actually spoke to a Lakota person or Dine or many of the hundreds of native traditions, and you find a mantra or a prayer or a chant that is actually sacred and has a history of being sacred. And I just want to conclude by saying that I've gone to a lot of native reservations, and the most intriguing thing that happened was I went to when I went there, I called it the Navajo. People corrected me. We're Dine. We're not Navajo. So I now say Dine, but sometimes people don't understand. I say, well, Navajo, but they're Dine, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. And I did an offering. Now, in our tradition, we do an offering to the earth. So I offered some flowers. I offered some seeds. I actually was, I don't want to say told, but was advised to plant some seeds there. So I took some seeds and I said, is this any like public land? Just plant some seeds, and I walked away. I have no idea what grew or didn't grow. But from that day on, this was so interesting. From that day on, almost every day that I've had, and actually I'll show you. I might take it out. So, but every day I go places, and one of my friends didn't believe me. There's a feather in my path. I have like all these feathers. I didn't know what to do with them. So I started, I said, well, it's in my path. I better pick it up. I don't know what to do. So I've been picking them up, and this was the most recent one. And I put it with me because in Hinduism, we'd consider a message from the heavens, the upper lokas, because birds are messengers of the devas, they're messengers of the spirits of the ancestors. And so they're sending you a message, now, if you ask me what the message is, I don't know if I can necessarily answer you, but the message is, I take it is to be aware and to be compassionate and to help people. To me, that's what's important. I've had one person refer to me as a guru. I said, I'm not a guru. I said, I know much less than anybody else that I know, certainly my father. And I said, but I can help you on the path. I'm happy to help you, but don't consider me that. I'm not that, because I don't feel I'm learned enough to be that way. And what's important is to always be humble. That's also part of Dharma. You want to be humble because we tend to think we know everything. I know, like, I'm a big Beatles fan. I probably know a lot about the Beatles, but I still don't know a lot about them. Somebody's talked to me about that, and I said that ties to the Dharmic tradition of peace and love and compassion and kindness. So, what you do along with, when you have that altar and that shrine, is look at what you do each day, what you surround yourself with, the messages we put on our shirts, the music we listen to, who we talk to, the way we use our language, use it in a respectful language. And maybe I've just gotten older, I want to do that, but I'll tell you, be respectful. If I disagree with somebody, okay, you're entitled to your opinion. I walk away. I'm not going to argue with you, because I don't see any real gain. You're entitled to your opinion. That's my opinion. I guess I could be wrong. I don't know. And I just walk away. So that's another way that you can practice your Dharma, you practice your beliefs. We are going to, is it a 5? At 5 o'clock, yes.
Anybody know what guru stands for?
What actually translate? You know what the translation really means? Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And guru. Yeah. Gure. You are your own guru. But here's another thing to add to it. In Sanskrit, I'm sure, like the native traditions and probably most of the traditions, every single thing has a meaning for it. There's a reason that, this is here, that the pipe's there, that the pipe is laying on that the leaf is here. There's a reason for all that. The rock is here. There's a reason for all of that. And guru is a good example. It's actually made out of 2 words. And I didn't know this till recently. Actually, Ben was talking to me about it, and I had to look up what does guru mean. And then I got into the dynamics of what it really means. Guru is 2 words. Gu means light, and Ru means dark. So the point of guru is for you to be able to discern, to understand the difference between light and dark. I don't want to say necessarily good and bad, but 2 different things. It's not a very black and white. There's a Dharmic tradition, and there's a tradition that goes opposite of the Dharmic tradition. I'm not in a position to say what's right, but with guru, you want to learn the difference between, what is, if you go to the Black Hills, you're not going to go dig up, look for gold. That's sacred land. People do that. That's really bad karma. That's a good example of being a guru. You know the difference between darkness and light. So that's what I leave you with, is just be aware of that. Yeah.
Oh, the mala, do it 27 times. Do what 27 times? Because I was raised Catholic, and so I'm used to a rosary.
Yeah.
So what do you do on the mala?
The mala, you would, like, I'll just give you an example. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. You can do Om, you can do Om Mani Padme Hum. There's a lot of different mantras. You can do, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I said that kind of fast, but you can do that, and then you do that for each time. The mantras are sacred, from sacred symbols, sacred words. So there's specifically any mantra you can look up that you can, you can do that. And you can do whatever you want, honestly. But I tell everybody, if you're not sure what to do, just do Om. And George Harrison on the Beatles said the proof is in the pudding. So when you actually do this and you notice changes, you'll know what you're doing is right. Or is, I don't want to say right, is in tune with making the changes that you want in your life. I guess I stand corrected like that. See, I still get that American right and wrong thing. But you know, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm going to be here for a while.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. Where are we going to do it? Do you guys want to do it inside or outside? Nobody's giving me an answer. Okay. Okay, well, they can't record me outside, so we can do it. We'll be okay to do it we can do it inside here. We can do that. Anybody can participate. If you do want to participate and you want one of these, I'm sorry, this is a Rocky. It's basically a protection bracelet. Basically puts you in tune with the universe. And I'm trying to be descriptive. I'm not sure how accurate my descriptions are. I'm trying my best to describe it without getting to a really crazy long definition. But you're welcome to put one of these on. You put them on your right hand and on your right wrist, and you tie them. And does anybody want one? Come on, I'll tie one for somebody in front of the camera, and then I'm going to try and wrap up. So somebody come up. Somebody come up. So let me just have
We're
you.
just doing one now. We're
Yeah,
gonna do tonight.
yeah,
Tonight,
yeah.
we're gonna do
So,
all of them.
I am going to ask the previous speaker if he could come up. I hope. Can I have the previous speaker come up? Would you be comfortable if I did this for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take care of this lady. So you do a mantra. So I'll just do Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So you repeat it 3 times, and then you basically keep that on as long as it's on. I mean, you can do what you want. I'm just telling you what you
Right.
normally should do is you want to keep that on as long as it stays on. And then I'm going to do this with Charles, and then I'm probably gone over, so I'm going to like hurry up. I'm good. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you want to pick a color? Right there. Look at that. He wants something black. You literally reached for it. Fascinating. So, do you want me to do a mantra or do you want to do something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. This is the Gayatri mantra.
You talked about the black and the white, so.
Yeah, fascinating. So, Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhurva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. When you say the last mantra, you completely tie it.
I could feel the energy.
And it's very powerful. I don't want to take up too much time, so I mean, it's okay if I just afterwards, if anybody wants, I can just have them come up and tie it. Or do you want me to just, yeah. I've got 10 minutes.
I'll help.
Why don't I have Ben help? I'm gonna put Ben to work. Lisa, is that okay? I'm putting your second husband to work. Is that okay? You approved your first husband to say, see, I moved up Ben. I'm now the first husband.
If you want to have people come up then?
Yeah, if somebody wants to come up to me, somebody wants to come up to him, we will do. Yes,
Yeah.
White on her.
so, why don't you? Oh, anybody over here really want to? You want white? Any color you want? Is it any color? Okay. Is there a blue one? Purple one, yeah. Okay. What color do you want? Green? I'm very bad with color. What color do you want? Red. What color do you want? Okay, and what color do you want?
You could start tying.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna start tying these. You on your right hand. Which one's your right hand? Right hand? Your right wrist. I want to tie it on your right wrist. Is this one? Your right wrist. Yeah, the right wrist. So these are all the mantras. So Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Yo Yana Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Yo Yana Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Yo Yana Prachodayat. Hey, Ben, let me have you move over and you do the mantra over here, and I'm just gonna do the mantras off camera. Off. I'm drafting Ben over here. So Ben, I'm gonna turn this over to you. You mind just chanting the mantras very gently? Yeah, okay, we're good there. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Maybe just put like. Oh. Okay. Oh, you okay? So here, just.
Let's see, I'm just going to go in and grab.
Okay, yeah, no, it's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, just hold it and then have the next person, just like hold it and then have, just pass the next person. So I can get these.
So I have one on this arm that's from a Buddhist
That's no problem.
group that I went to. I've had it probably for about 4 or 5 years. It's amazing how, you're right, they come off when they're supposed to. Beautiful, thank you.
So much for your, I loved your talk last time as well.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of stuff back there. Please take something.
I'm learning,
There's
I'm.
malas, there's
like
all
you
kinds
said,
of stuff.
I'm at the bottom of knowledge and I just don't even know where to start. And so-
Take a mala and start doing that. I've got my cards over there somewhere, I think. I don't know. If not, just find out now.
When I have a mallet, I forgot it.
Yeah.
You.
Thank you, everyone. Just a few announcements while Shiva is placing some of these bracelets on for you. So we'll be doing a fire ceremony.
We say the mantra together. So I do my left or the right?
Right, yeah. You know the Gatra mantra? Om Bhur. Nice.
As well as these bracelets. Also, if anyone would like to make a donation for Shiva, you can do so. He has a giveaway here, or if you'd like to make a donation for your bracelet. The last time Shiva was here, I believe it was the eclipse, and I still have his bracelet on today. So please, if you will call, make a donation. Yes, it will definitely help with this travel. You flew here all the way to Florida. This man does an awful lot for all of us, and is always called to be here, and we are eternally grateful for that. Also, lunch, snacks are in back. The vendors are outside the gorgeous day. And there are so many amazing things out there as well as in
Absolutely.
here. As soon as I locate Egypt, we will find out when she's gonna be doing her ceremony in her booth, and I believe she's set up downstairs. So as soon as I have that knowledge, I will share that with you. Also, I'd like to, is Beverly Reed Scott in the house? Okay, so Beverly is not here. So we are gonna take a 30-minute break. So you can grab something to
I'm
eat,
sorry,
make
this is-
sure you
this is
water
it right here.
yourself,
That's
so
fine.
important,
That's
eat and
fine.
water. Keep the body going, you're obtaining a lot of knowledge this weekend.
Hey, Ben,
Keep your body
can you help-
healthy.
Can you help
So
me
we're
with
gonna
the
give you a
field?
break to do that.
Can you help me with the field, please?
Time for, Linda, I
Oh, you have to
is next. So we're gonna give Linda some time to set up
No.
here as well. So a 30-minute break, when you hear the drums, know that we're coming back. All right? All right, everyone, have a good break.